So once you've established your inclusive culture, what are your tips for sustaining it? What are your tips for the retention piece? Because that is what we're talking about is not more important than the hiring piece, but the retaining piece. I know we were talking about making your firm, your company, already a base that when people walked in, they felt inclusive. How can we kind of start from where we're at now and build around what we have so that we do have the retention, we do keep the folks that we have already hired?
Yeah, and Jackie, I'll just jump in because triggered a thought. It's back to that garden analogy. Once you create this culture, it needs nurturing. It needs to get fed. You just can't walk away from it. And I know a lot of organizations, and law firms too, they focus on exit interviews, to get feedback why people are leaving. Well, how about engage in some stay interviews and ongoing focus interviews throughout the year? Some people say, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But if it's broken, you got to fix it, and you got to find out about it. And it's organic, and your culture is something that's going to go through ups and downs, and it's going to get tested. But that's why leaders need to stay involved, and they need to be an active force. There's a lot going on in the industry right now, especially for firms and organizations that have done a lot of training around DE&I and inclusion. Is it performative or authentic? You just checking boxes, or is it really about who you are and how can you show success? What are the metrics to show that it's actually being infused and incorporated into the culture? So to maintain that, I think there needs to be kicking of the tires and testing and engaging your employees to see what's working and not working, and to have an intentional high trust culture where they have no fear sharing their true thoughts with you.
I love this plant analogy because one, I like analogies, and it seems that this thing is like a running parallel to this conversation. But I will continue it. Years ago, I went to an award ceremony, and one of the centerpieces was a little plant, a planter, and it had 4 or 5 different small plants in them. And I just took it back to my office, and I just started putting water in it. And over time, the plants got too big, so I took each of them out and put them in their own pot. And so these plants are in my office now. My office looks like a jungle. And over the years, I have put all of them in new plants. I'm new planters. I have changed what they look like. I've pruned. I've hired someone to come in and look at what I'm doing to tell me, am I doing enough to keep these plants healthy and growing? And I think what makes sense here when we're talking about like, how do you keep this going? You have to realize when you have it, that's where you begin. And then you must always be looking for ways to improve it, to nurture it, to prune it when necessary. And then when you can, bringing in people from the outside to tell you, hey, this is what we're doing. How does it look from where you're sitting? What are our people saying? I think there's a lot of ways to actually do this. But just like the return to office and the work from home, you have an idea, you get it started, and then we're done. And you're like, all right, this is fantastic. We got this program. We're never going to have to do another thing to it. This is an evolving journey. It's like a search for discovery. And I use it in the article that we talked about. I said, this is about a journey of really starting to understand the world around us, and that never ends. And it shouldn't. I hope it doesn't. But yeah, you do, and that's just the beginning. You have to be active, and that's active from the top. And everyone that comes into the organization has to feel, not know, feel that we are not only committed to this, but you're gonna get a dose of this that's gonna make you wonder, like, why was the world ever any different?
So if I'm someone looking at our conversation right now, I may be saying, oh my Lord, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. I don't want to do it. But I will tell you that, first of all, in most cases, it's fun, right? It's like there's it's interesting. You're learning about other people. You're learning about other cultures, other races, other walks of life. And it is enriching, not just to you personally, but to the entire organization. It makes you a better place. And this is well documented. I mean, and it's scientifically documented that diverse teams do better. They just do better. They're more creative. You got different types of opinions coming together to produce a better quality product, a better quality service. You can create more efficiencies across the board. So if you want to back this up with an ROI, you can, right? It is 100% possible. But I would also just say that it is personally so enriching, and I'll just point out, plants aside, we started just this year. We started we did some pruning last year, and we started a deviation of our program internally that turned into a monthly celebration of different, I don't know, minorities, races, cultures.
We're celebrating everybody because everybody's worthy of celebration. That's exactly what we're doing. Let's call it what it is. We're celebrating everybody because that's the way it should. We should be celebrating it.
And it is, you know, we're a couple months into it. We're doing it according to the Anti-Defamation League monthly calendar. We started with Black History Month. We learned something about Black history. We all took a field trip to the African American Museum of History and Culture. It was spectacular. It was bonding. It was interesting. It was difficult. But you know, not everything is fun and games, right? And that's where growth comes from. And then last night, and then this whole past month, but last month, our study of our celebration of women and women's history culminated in a good chunk of the company sitting together, both remotely and in person in the office, sharing pizza and watching Hidden Figures together, which was captivating and fun and interesting, and a chance to get to know your fellow workers better and understand how things like that can affect you, and look at yourself and see how it affects you emotionally and how you can grow from it. So it's work. It's work, but it's some of the most rewarding kind I could possibly imagine.
It's like that hashtag that people say, like hashtag relationship goals. Like that's what you all are representing to us, our goals that we would love to implement in our law firms.
Yeah, and I think those are all great things both you and David have said, and your company being a model for a lot of these practices.